Good morning. This is NorCal Malibra Battle Report 4. This will probably be the last one of the year. This is a match between myself and Colonel. I was hoping to get Josh versus Colonel, get some resurrection in here, but just with the holiday parties, etc., it's just been tough for us to get together. In fact, with this one, I'm just trying to sneak the narrative in just before I run off to a mochi making party. And yes, if the thought of a huge white dude making Japanese treat is amusing, just understand my sole job is to steam an ungodly amount of rice and drink beer. I'll let my wife and son mix it up in making the treats. So today we have Tara versus Sandeep. This is Colonel's first game with Tara. He did get another game in with Tara a little later in the week against Josh. Like I said, that would have been an interesting one. I think it was Tara versus Molly. But let's get out into it. So we have corner corrupted idols. I am not a fan of corrupted idols in any either corner or flank with the long center line. I feel like the action can devolve into one corner or another, and if one side is really able to control where those idols are set, it gives a pretty big advantage. I like corrupted idols as a strat. I just prefer it in wedge and standard. It kind of tightens it up a little bit, makes it a little bit more interesting. But you can't always, uh, you can't always. You got to play the strats and schemes you're not a big fan of too. They may pop up in a tournament. So we have corner corrupted idols, breakthrough, claim jump, detonate charges, deliver the message, and harness the light line. So it seems like a lot um, of scheminess here in breakthrough, detonate, deliver, harness. Those are four scheme heavy pools, so a lot of interacting coming up. So Colonel took Tara. So we've got Tara and Karina, Scion of the Void. Uh, is that a henchman? I was looking at before as I was putting this together. Is that a henchman? A six Soulstone henchman? That's interesting. Aeonis, Rusty Alice, the Nothing Beast, Student of Conflict, and the Void Wrench. So we've got two out of keyword. It seems that Colonel's much more willing. The things I've noticed as I've been doing these, playing Colonel, and then examining his list after, he tends to avoid upgrades. I don't think I've ever seen a list he's had an upgrade with. And he's more willing to take out of keyword than I am, certainly. So, Student of Conflict, I had to look that up even now to see, why that take, even though I know what he was doing with it, which is just basically giving fast out. I think a fast Rusty Alice is probably pretty scary. So I like seeing deep into corrupted idols, summoning disposable wind gammon. I mean, what's not to like there? I was very concerned with corner. I almost switched it over to Karis, who is the other master I'm playing with some regularity and know well. She's fast, her crew is fast, and so on. So, but decided to stick with Sandeep. I just from a scheme, maybe if there was a little bit more killy in the scheme pool, I might have gone Karis, but I just felt like I needed models to an AP to interact with, no matter what I took. So Sandeep and Bonasuva, Kandara, Metal Golem, Metal Gammon, Ice Gammon. So this first time I would try a Shaster Vidya Guard. I gave him the magical training, and then Kudra. So and that's also the first time I've tried her. So couple of observations. The first, I left the Arcanist Crutch at home. No Soulstone Miner. Sometimes against her, I don't know if I'm completely against taking the Soulstone Miner. I just probably wouldn't bury him. He's pretty good even without burying. I believe he's unimpeded. Move 5, tough. The willpower 3 into a Taro crew would be concerning. I was going for higher willpower, as you can see here. Kudra's got her 6. The Shastar's also willpower 6. Sandeep is a 7. You know, Kandar is only a 5, but it's got the Serene Continent, so maybe I could save some cards needed for the Glimpse of Void. And then, Gammon, the Elementals, models. Yeah, I'm just gonna have to suck it up there. I think a lot of the Gammon are 4, and then the Golems are 5. I do think the Ice Gammon was a mistake in this game, and when we get to the end of it, I'll explain why. Hell, let's talk about it now. So we're in a corner deployment. Got a lot of ground to cover. Got to get to those center lines. Probably have to get to the corners, or one corner or the other, just to just to play the game, really, because that's where these markers are going to probably drop. And so then, I chose the metal golem for rail walk. Get that metal gammon up there, maybe toss it forward with Bonasuva, et cetera, et cetera. And that's great. That's a walk that could cover 12 inches, heck, even a little bit more when you place on the other side. So theoretically, a little over 13 inches. That's some pretty good speed. The Ice Gammon, I like the Ice Golem a lot. He's a big beater. What I wasn't factoring is how slow and no way to really get the Golem up there once I get a Golem out, versus the Fire Golem. It's got the what is that ability called, where you could place. I think it's even a free action. No, it's a one action. Let me pull up an old Karis crew here. Bear with me. Fire Golem. Draw a flame. Actually, it is a free action. So, that's a place within 8 inches. Target a model with burning, and place this model in base contact. So, get a couple pyre markers out there. Kandara and Bonasuva don't care about getting a flaming 1 on them. Obviously, a Fire Gammon that's out there, and so that gives me the ability to use a free action to place 8 plus whatever the width of the model, giving the Fire Gammon a lot more mobility. So if I were to redo this, I would take a Fire Gammon and focus on getting that Fire Golem up. Probably dies a little bit easier than in a Karis crew, just because I'm not loading it up with flaming as easily or frequently, especially with the way this game started and ended up moving. But the mobility would be worth it. One last thing, and as far as mobility, and I think I said this in the last Sandeep game, is I was struggling thinking how slow this crew is. It's actually not as slow as that first game led me to believe. Obviously, you got Bonasuva's Toss. That's another 10-inch plays for height 2 or lower models, and then Kandara's got an amazing trigger that would come into play during the game. I'll make sure to point it out in the relevant slides. Kudra, I just took her to try her out. Again, high willpower was kind of the defining, and wanted to see what she could do. I think she's a little overcosted at 9. I'd probably say she's worth 8. But she did her job in this game. It did a pretty good, put in some pretty good work for me. So in choosing, I would end up taking Harness the Leyline. Again, my idea was just summon stuff, flood the center line, so no matter where an idol, I might have something that could jump forward and get some movement there. And if not, they'd have something to do. And then deliver the message. Claim Jump is a favorite of mine. I just didn't know if I would be participating in the center of the board. Breakthrough was the other thought, but corner deployment, Breakthrough is not one of my favorite. You got a long way to go there. So when we deliver the message, my anticipation is I'm going to score a single point. When I took that, I was like, I can sneak it in, but Tara is fast. I didn't realize to the extent of how I would be out activated. So, fortunately, my expectation of a single point, it turns out, maybe I had an opportunity to grab that second one. And then for Colonel, he would take claim jump. That is one of his favorite schemes there. He would take claim jump on Rusty Alice. And as we'll see, I ferret that out, and I'll talk about how and why. Regular opponents, you got inside knowledge. I think that even if he was not a regular opponent, I might have sniffed this one out. Um, and so we'll talk about that a little bit. And then he also delivered a message. I'm thinking that he knows, he's looked at his crew, that he's going to be out activating me. He doesn't need to necessarily take Sandeep out versus I'm more incented to try to kill Tara. And so he feels he can get that second point of deliver. So here's the board. We're back at my place, obviously. Threw in some new terrain here. And you know what? I think, well, let's go over this one. So some of the terrain you've seen before. So the hill is a 2-inch climbable piece. The fir tree on the top is, you got to play we play the whole round base there. Is blocking impassable. Same with the buildings. We've got my well there, my cart sitting in the middle. There's an outhouse in the corner. We do have a couple pieces of water, which is just severe. The flats with the brown and yellow on them are severe, concealing, dense. And you got a fence. Let's go to the next one real quick. Just a different one. Probably the one piece of new terrain is this piece here. I think I did it on an early one here. This one's got the rocks on it. Those rocks are decorative, can be moved, so models can sit flat. But we treated this as severe and cover if you're inside it, just to kind of mix it up, try something a little different. And so we've got a lot of severe out there, not as much line of sight blocking. The woods are, I guess, just doesn't look like it as much in the big parcels. This was about 40% coverage. The hill, it takes a big chunk of it, even though the top of it's open. But getting up and down that 2-inch climbable does mean something, and it certainly blocks line of sight. So about 40% coverage. You see the outhouse. There's a couple of them floating around in here. All right, so we got my crew here. Kind of spread out. Sorry, the Shaster video card. I'm just gonna butcher that all game, all battle report long. I'm sorry. We'll call him Mr. Shasty. Shasty there is missing his swords and is unpainted, so I think I'll assemble another one and make sure he keeps his swords on. You could see Kudra there, I'm sorry, is also missing her arms. God dang it, this game, my hands are not made for this game with my big fat fat fingers and clumsiness and drinking and putting pint glasses down on models and so on. Need some more beefy models like the metal golem there. That's my bro. That's a big chunky model. That's way more my style. We got that tree was really annoying for me. The tree sitting between Banasuva and Sandeep. That would impact me a little later in the game. We got the metal. We've got metal golem, metal gammon. Obviously, I'm setting up some tossing, some rail walking there. I'm not so worried about the golem sitting up on top of the hill. Yeah, if he's got to run off it and drop and fall, so be it. So we got Colonel on the other side here. We got Karina sitting on the other side of the pond. He's got a top down, so I might not get all these exactly right, but I think that's Tara sitting in the pond, or at least got her legs sitting in it. You got Student of Conflict behind Rusty Alice. You got Aeonis, Nothing Beast, and a Void Wretch, and then finally the Scion of the Void. So turn one, I actually won initiative and placed at a crow. So I placed the marker on my right way in the corner. This is a couple activations in. This would end up being what I call jail. There'd be obviously a couple of the models for his, but plenty of my models would see time in this jail here. It was really fucking annoying. So this is me, starting to spin up here. Some concentrations. I toss the metal gammon forward. I didn't want to hit any train, take damage, but so that's about as far as I could get. I've got enough room to squeeze through there on a walk. I just couldn't bend my push around, obviously. Some concentrations, to get some scrap down, some focuses, some shielded, some card draw. This first turn, I would end up with a heck of a hand. Pretty easy to do with the card draw mechanic off of Kandara. Yeah, kind of looking pretty good, feeling all right here. So this is clearly after Sandeep. I've summoned a ice gammon, second one. They've run up. There's some focusing going on, so they're getting their shielded from Kudra, as well as some card cycle. There is I summoned that first turn. I had the 13, so I was able to summon a wind gammon and an ice gammon. The wind gammon must have already taken off at this point, and started heading towards that corner on my right. This is just a quick, his early days activations was a Void Wretch and Rusty Alice, and the student that you could just barely see her head peeking over, just kind of ran up to that one tree there. With the distance, he wasn't worried about activating Rusty early. Just there, he figured there wasn't going to be any shots, or I wasn't going to give any shots to him that early. And she's in a good position. I wanted to make sure that I was out of an 18-inch range on the next turn, so she just couldn't walk and shoot a couple times. So, here's a shot of my wind gammon having moved into that right corner. He is a hop, skip, and a jump away from that corner idle for next turn. But right now it feels like the entire Tara crew is bearing down on him. You can see a Void Hunter has been summoned. That is that is not a proxy model. That is, in this particular case, a conversion. That model I don't think has been released. You got the Nothing Beast. Aeonis popped them both out, and you've got an Aeonis down there as well. Just another shot, and then of course you got Tara sitting there. So my poor wind gammon is going to play 300 against the Persian Might right now. You see, later days, I get my metal gammon up, drop a scrap marker with the forgeability, whatever that's called, in preparation to bring some reinforcements to help my lone little wind gammon, which you can't quite see because at this point he may have gotten buried. You see Tara just way at the top there, and then there's a tree. Whether he's buried at this point or not, he will be buried. He fails his glimpse of the void and ends up in jail. The colonel doesn't want me rail walking over there with the metal golem, so he puts the Nothing Beast right on top of the scrap marker. Bangs away. I think does a couple points to the metal golem. God, that thing hits hard. I believe this is just a shot at the end, just continuing to show he's got the other half of his crew. You got the Scion is scooched up a little bit to join Rusty, Student, and Void Wretch. There's not as much cover in the center, so Rusty's got some pretty scary shooting lanes and is able to dominate the middle here. All right, so this is a couple activations into turn 2. So turn 2, the idol was placed halfway between, I'm still playing on the right side. It's basically right behind that white house you see there, right where Tara is standing. I mean, it's or no, I'm sorry, Tara will be standing. Um, so there's a couple in. He takes some swings. I think I only drew like one or two cards. I still had a handful with all that card cycle on the first turn. I had a handful tens and above. I think I had five of them. I had the Black Joker as well, so four of them in the Black Joker. And I think I drew a 13 right after of those two cards. So I was sitting with a mammoth hand for turn two. You could see way up, that little gold coin there. That's the first idol. So I Jimmy Jack around a bit, get some shielded up, drop another scrap marker so he can't cover both. Um, Rail walk. I forgot what his activations were. Um, he might have summoned a little bit or done something on the other side. Um, I do well. Nothing Beast probably swung, and somehow my Metal Gammon survived. No, couldn't have swung at this point because I still got my shielded up. Um, yeah, I'm not sure what he did here, um, to be quite honest. But I would, go with the Metal Gammon, Jimmy around, get some more scrap out. Uh, Looks like the models got jostled that should be touching, and then would rail walk the Metal Golem and then do walk the line through. Uh, it's a good one since not attack action ignores incorporeal, so 2 damage to the Nothing Beast, to uh, Tara there. Um, Tara probably went and summons a Void Wretch. I believe just won this turn, and then gave the Metal Gammon fast, and then he would. I think I swung at Tara, did some pretty good damage to her. I think I might have even severed it. All right, so he would finish off the Metal Gammon, and then charge the Nothing Beast into my Metal Golem. He would Red Joker the damage, of course. Fortunately, I had some shielded up to take a little bit of that, but 7 damage is still 7 damage. So he's reeling a bit. You got some Void Wretches moving up to help take me on. The Not sure how those scrap markers got there. If somehow the Metal Gammon ended up over there, maybe got put in jail and came back out. I'm not quite sure. That's a little confusing. But let's leave it with the Metal Golem is reeling. He's getting pummeled at this point. You can see, I believe the Void Hunter came back to deal. It also attacked the Metal Golem. You've got a Void Wretch who attacked the Metal Golem. So he's not feeling particularly well. So I get through some shenanigans and command the Elemental from Banasuva, who also tossed Sandeep forward. But I had to run around that tree I mentioned. So Banasuva is just in a terrible, terrible position, has been way left behind. But I get Kandara up and I do the Stand By My Side, I believe it's called. Yeah, what the heck is that called? I've got your back, to yank the Metal Golem out and say, hey, time out here. You know, I'm tired of being the punching bag, and maybe I get set up for another walk the line. I'm sorry, was it walk the rail and spread out a bunch of damage. So you can see Sandeep's base at the very top there on the edge. I did get another Gammon out, as well as another Wind Gammon. That's a second Wind Gammon. The first Wind Gammon, who had been buried and is sitting on 1 health, was forced to place by Banasuva way back in the corner, and he would just say, hey, 1 health, I'm making a beeline all the way to the other corner where I could do some harnessing of the ley line. But I've got the big old Ice Golem up there, so if he wants to come in and finish off the Metal Gammon, he certainly is welcome to, but hopefully I can counterpunch with that Ice Golem. So while the majority of the action is certainly in that corner, He's got all his forces. I feel like I'm feeding mine in, a model at a time. Uh, and that is really where the focus of the game is right now. That things are still happening in the middle. So uh, she gets forward, shoots at Kudra, who butterfly jumps away, and then I would charge actually onto the other side of that fence. Swing at Rusty. Um, I'm pretty sure I even missed. The Scion would come in. I'd butterfly jump. Counter charge. I butterfly jumped away. He certainly didn't hit me since I'm sitting on a still shielded, but a fast was handed out, which was annoying. As you can see here, the Shasti, dropped a dropped a ski marker on the ley line, and that, as I said, that one wind golem sitting on 1 health had beelined, is beelining into the corner here. So we got the start of turn 3, and the idol is placed in the center this time. I was trying to force it. I did cheat a fairly high card, force it to be almost next to the Shastar guard. And so he countered, but he didn't have anything other than, I believe it's a ram that puts it in the middle. By the way, he's got usually a +2 to +3 on me in pass tokens. His ability to generate pass tokens is crazy. I'm giving him pass tokens with my summons. I'm getting a couple as well. But he's got so many, he can use them to gain advantage on the table by passing and still have, several to have an advantage over me on, come initiative time. So, God, Tara is built. I think the Tara crew, if I was an Outcast player, or at least if I'm ever playing against Outcasts into Idols, you gotta expect Tara every single time. She's just so good into this strat. So I'm able to do the walk the line ability, swing, and kill the Nothing Beast. Finish him off. Grab a bunch of shielded on one of the scrap markers there. I think I pounded that Void Wretch for a little bit more damage. Think I used a focus that I had left. I was trying to hit that severe that could one-shot him. Sadly, I think I got the moderate. You could see last turn, Tara had gone over there. I should say what the score is at this point. She'd gone over there and was able to push the marker. So at the end of turn 2, it was 1-0. He got the Corrupted Idol strat. So we're at early days of turn 3 here. I took this shot also just to kind of show the conversion. I believe that is a old Source Cav model that's been converted up into a Void Hunter. Pretty nicely done by Colonel. Again, the action remains fast and furious over here. He buries the metal golem. At this point, the metal golem's got 2 health left and is sitting in jail. But that does open up the way, open it up for me to bring Kandara in, and then draw her down, draw the golem down as well to get into the action here. I do believe at some point, it might have been near the end of the turn, that little wind gamut I had will pop out and push a marker, that very first marker that's in the corner, to allow me to score. Just a little pan away shot here. You can see the center marker up there still sitting in the middle. So I'm a little, I think, frustrated with me taking the pictures in the second half of this game. The action, there was some pretty interesting action, and there's one element I'll talk about, but here you see again, I finally get a wind gammon over into the corner and prep to finish off Harness on turn 4, I believe. And then there's a marker there. He was able to drop one as well. A second Void Hunter was summoned. You know, there with the Shasta guard. Aeonis is in the mix over there. He was able to push the center. I believe the Scion did it. The center idol over onto my side. So he's got two on my side. I've got one on his side. We both deliver a message this turn, and you'll see a shot. You know, I did it with actually that metal golem. I pushed forward. That's what I did with the last AP of the metal golem. I killed the nothing beast and then used an AP to deliver the message just because I was there. Felt it was the best thing to do. So we're sitting at 3-2. I'm sorry, yeah, 3-2. With that said, I am not feeling really good at this point. I feel like my opponent is controlling the action. I don't know what his second scheme is, but when I saw that Void Hunter pop up there, I'm thinking, okay, he's got to hold up their forces. He's got to be taking. He's really set up for that. It's a good crew to do that. Da da da. And I double checked to see. I think if it's got to be less than or equal as far to qualify. And then realized hold up their forces wasn't even in the scheme pool, and saw claim jump and says like, okay, wait a minute, okay, it's got to be claim jump at this point. He's not making any moves for harness. He's not making any moves to get back for breakthrough, and detonate charges. He just isn't really acting that way. So it's got to be a claim jump. And I had Sandeep, if you remember, on the hill, and I had two options with Sandeep at this point. I could really get him into that mix in that corner and really try to get dominance over there. It's been a bloody battle. And that's the center of gravity of this game so far. And so throwing in my master into that mix would have turned the advantage to myself in that corner. He lost the nothing beast, and my metal golem was out of play at this point. But once I sniffed out the claim jump, I decided I have to flood the middle with models. So I would summon, and so instead of heading that way, I started heading towards the middle. He's got Aeonis, he's got the Scion, and he's got Rusty Alice that are all capable models, and to score a claim jump. I thought the Scion might be a little too weak, so I didn't think it was him. But Aeonis could, and he's certainly playing it close to his vest. Clearly, Colonel is going for score the first claim jump point on turn 4, and not give me the opportunity to knock it down. So at that point, I was like, okay, let's work on the first one I was working on, which is Rusty Alice, and beat her down and see what I can do. So this is still not turn 4. This is still turn 3. You can see he hasn't moved the Scion up to move the center marker over. That's what he would do. I think he would walk and then push it over. He's just within the 5 inches. Aeonis popped up to beat on Kudra. Kudra's, this is where I'm spending my stones. This is the only place I had needed to spend my stones. She's holding up 2 henchmen at this point. A student comes over, gives fast to the Scion. It might have been out of 5, but Scion runs forward and pushes it over. The fact that he didn't declare the claim jump at that point gave me some confidence that was not the claim jump model. And you can see that, again, I still think we're on turn 3 here, so I apologize for that. He runs up this dude to deliver a message to Sandeep. He's on 1 wound at this point. Not sure where he took some wounds before. I would end up summoning when I came over here, I did this the next turn. So this is how the board state was at the end of turn 3. More end of turn 3 board state. You can see how I pushed that little corner idol over. And sadly, we see jail here with both my golems sitting in it at the end of turn 3. So he, of course, has them come out at the other end of the um, battlefield. I scored harness the ley line. You must have been at the end of the last. I must have done that last turn 3. So some confusion on the photos. I do apologize. I, I am really frustrated when I went through these photos that I didn't get. I got lots of photos, but it wasn't the photos I needed to get to really show where the action was. But anyways, this one, both my golems are out. They're pretty much out of the game at this point. Not sure what else to do with them. I start moseying them forward. Or are they really out of the game? Well, it turns out I could just see, draw a line of sight all the way from one corner to the other, across that had to have been 36, 40 inches of space. I should have measured it. And so I hit the trigger, uh, you know, formless servants on the paired knives for Kandara, which reads, choose a friendly elemental minion. Oh, I cheated. Elemental minion. That's an enforcer. Well, we learned something new even as we broadcast. Within line of sight and place into base contact with the target. Well, okay, that isn't as fun and clever as I thought it was. Oh, darn it. Sorry, Colonel, I cheated. It didn't matter. It didn't. We'll see what happens here. So this is my attempt to flood the zone. You could see Kudra finally went down, but it took almost all his effort and a lot of his AP here. He's got Karina. Karina's throwing heals at Rusty. That just signals to me right away that she's the claim jump target. I'm trying to keep her above half. I summoned a Ice Gammon and a Poison Gammon, and I blew the Poison Gammon up, which did a lot of damage going across a bunch of these models and is stacking poison. I think at this point, with Kudra's attacks, Rusty's got Poison 4 or Poison 5 sitting on her. So Tara is able to do her leap and move my Corrupted Idols onto her side, onto my side. So Colonel's going to score 3 on Corrupted Idols this turn. So at the end of turn 4, he's got 3 for Corrupted Idols and 1 for Deliver, so that's 4 points. I've got 1 Corrupted Idols and 1 for Deliver. I win. This time because he didn't generate as many pass tokens for a change. I was able to, and they used a bunch trying to get some leverage to get Rusty into a place where she could score claim jump. I just was able to deny just with the number of models, and so I was able to place the idol pretty close to where the Shasta Guard is. All right, you can see a lack of models on, because I went first, I went with Sandeep, and I had a 13 in hand, 13 atomes in hand, didn't even need to use a stone. I summoned 2 Poison Gammon. The enslaved Nephilim you see there is standing for Poison Gammon. I blow one up that literally finishes off Karina, finishes off the Scion, finishes off the Student of Conflict, and takes and does a bunch more damage to Rusty. I then shoot twice at Rusty. I Black Joker the first damage, sadly, and just able to do min damage on the second one. And but Rusty is sitting at 1 wound, is sitting with poison like 6 on her, and got a Poison Gammon with Catalyst standing close by, so that if he dies, he'll explode and kill her. If she activates, she'll take plink that 1 point of damage from poison and die. So Rusty's in a pretty bad space. No way to kind of, well, there's one little Hail Mary that he's going to try, but I'm ready for it. Um, he tried to bury the poison gammon with Aeonis, unable to. I saved cards, all my heart, what little high cards I had left. I had a pretty shitty hand this particular round. Um, he moves up, drops a second scheme marker, so I can't pick one up. And to deny him the deliver, I push a Corrupted Idols token forward with the Ice Gammon. I would do the same. I would push the Shasta guard out of contact by taking a concentrate. And then maybe not. Maybe either the Metal Golem or Shasta would push the other Corrupted Idol. So I would get my Corrupted Idols this turn. So Tara would end up um, burying both these models. With me killing a ton of his models early in the turn before they could activate, I actually had leverage on activation control. So we played a whole bunch and was trying to outlast Tara with Kandara. The idea being, once he's forced to go the second time with Tara, I would use my agile ability just to walk away and then drop a ski marker close enough to score my second deliver point. Sadly, because I didn't have a great hand and the two good cards I used to save the poison gammon, or to summon the poison gammon and save it, I was unable to. I had one soulstone left. I even used it for a positive flip on the willpower duel on Kandara, but she went into the void. So at the end of the game, these are the three models that were sitting in jail. I forgot how Banasuva, he must have ran into the middle as well. Void Wretch probably popped him into jail. So these three models would end the game out of jail, though. Realistic expectations. The Ice Golem should have just been out of the game. Actually, I don't think it changed anything. It just would have meant he swung twice at Kandara just to ensure that she ended up in jail, which is where she ended up anyways. And so I believe that's where we would end the game. Turn 5, I would score 2 for Corrupted and another Harness, and he would score a second Deliver the Message. So we end the game. I end with 2 for Corrupted, 1 for Harness, 1 for Deliver. Colonel has 3 Corrupted and a Deliver. I had an opportunity to pull the win out there with Kandara. If I could avoid it going into the void, I think on reflecting, even though I screwed up the roll for the Ice Golem, I don't think it mattered much. Tara takes a little less damage, and she swings twice at Kandara instead of once to ensure that she buries them. Probably 3 times actually. So I think Kandara was getting buried. It was kind of a long shot and depended on card flips. And a lot of luck on my part for her not to go into the void. Clearly, the key to the game for me in avoiding a loss was turn 3 when I could have sent Sandeep at the center of action. The center of gravity for the game, as I call it, was in that corner. There was where all the action was happening. A lot of mixing it up. A lot of both sides trying to score Corrupted. There were 3 idols in there eventually. Could have sent him over there, given me an edge. With Tara's mobility, though, in her crew, she could have easily have sucked more models into that to counter that. And instead, making the decision that his second scheme was claim jump, and the best way to deny that was to flood the center with as many models as I could get over there. Banasuva was over there. I don't think there was a shot of him, which is how he ended up in jail. With he's trying to clear him out. And then not only just flooding it, but sussing out which model he had nominated for claim jump and just going hard at it. And look, it was a coin flip. He could have nominated Aonis. If he nominates Aonis, he gets at least one more point for claim jump, or 1 point for claim jump. It wins the game. It's a 50-50. Um, I think, on reflecting, I would have done the Scion. I would have tried to score that claim jump point early, and I would have buried him and said, "Hey, you're not touching him until I need to pop him out at the end of the game." I do this with the Soulstone Miner all the time with claim jump. One of my favorite claim jump models. Um, I don't think you want to do that with Rusty. Missing 2 turns of her, her AP on the table is hard to swallow. But a Scion, I'll go look. I don't know what the heck it does. It didn't seem to impact the game much. That's a good one. Just bury him. And I think that's what Colonel will do next time. In the future, if I saw this scheme pool come up, I think I mosey into the middle, send a lot more models into the middle just to try to hold off claim jump as long as I can. I'm going to ramble a little bit, I think, today, since this is the last one of the year, and I've still got a little time before I got to mosey off. Kudra. Yeah, she did work. I'm not going to die. She did a good job of contesting the middle and putting some hurt onto Rusty. But most of that hurt was poison related. That she, obviously against an armored target, she's not going to do well. Built-in onslaught's great, but if you're plinking 1 damage and 1 poison a turn, I guess it would be 2 because 2 separated, but that assumes you hit with both. The disillusion was useful. I was able to use that. Butterfly jump, she was survivable. 9 wounds, 6/6, arcane shield, and the butterfly jump. She is hard to take down. In Soulstone use, she is a pretty good tanky model. I think her biggest issue that I'm struggling with is her lack of mobility. If you're not attacking her, she's not jumping. She's just move 5. She's got no pushes, nothing that really can get her where I need to go. She feels like a model that should be able to be out on the flank on her own, do some work, but she just doesn't have it. She's not going to be a good scheme runner because of the lack of mobility. She's just, I think, a tanky model that can drip a lot of damage onto something. So I just don't see me taking her very often. This is kind of a corner case, I think. I already mentioned Fire Gammon versus Ice Gammon. That was at the beginning. Should have gone Fire Gammon. The little bit of armor that, I think the Golem had half of his wounds left, at least. The Metal Golem, bit of a star. He would end the game with a single wound left, and just, he scored a point for me. He killed a big beater, and just took a lot of AP to deal with, especially with armor 2 and me getting shielded up on him. Oh, yeah, I didn't even talk about it. He had Vent Steam. Doesn't do anything against a lot of the models, but I had actually gotten Tara down to like 3 wounds, and she's sitting in the hazardous terrain. Not a good place to be. He would heal her back up with Karina eventually. Let's see, what else do I want to talk about with this game? I think that's about it. Hope you've been enjoying this. I'll continue into the new year as I discover, and you'll see I make errors. But this process helps me a lot. I was talking to Colonel about this, that when I go through the photos, and even though I get a little frustrated at myself for not taking photos at key moments of the game, it helps me debrief myself on these games and hopefully help myself improve play. Kind of like the last one where I thought, I looked at turn 3 and just thought that Colonel and I were just playing terribly, and hopefully I can avoid those times in the future, being aware of it. And this lesson, lesson learned on this one is, hey, keep the eye on the ball on enemy schemes and strats, or enemy schemes, and see if in M2E, and it's the same in M3E. I think consistent winning is when you can deny points to your opponent as well, more than scoring your own. And that's where you take the next step. So I'm going to be off for a couple weeks. Hopefully pick this up in the new year. Hope everybody has a happy holiday, and we'll see you in the new year.